Good morning. Good morning. Super excited to be here to start this brand new venture. I have the luxury of joining this, taking this journey with my brother Kam Buckner, who's another fellow Illinois alum turned politician, which we'll get into in a second. But I'm your co-host, Juice Williams, former Illinois quarterback, Rose Bowl 2008. Career was there for 2006 to 2010. And I'll let Kam kind of jump in for a second as we get going. But we're super excited to bring you Illinois football as we see it from our lens. So I like to think that we have a very unique perspective, being fellow alums, being football enthusiasts, being super fans of the sport, and not only just college football, but just football in general. So we super duper excited to be here with you guys. We're gonna have fun with this, and we're gonna make this as fan friendly as possible. So, Kam, tell us a little bit about you. Without giving us the 30-minute winded politician speech,
right?
Let us know what you're up to. Talk to us about Kam Buckner.
Yeah, for sure. Well, look, Juice, good morning, brother, and I'm super excited about this opportunity as we share our thoughts and observations with the Illini Nation about our football team and our football program. My name is Kam Buckner. I had the pleasure and the privilege of playing at the University of Illinois, both on offense for 1 year and on defense for 3 years. So I see the program from a I think a pretty balanced perspective. A native of Chicago, spent my time there in the last years of the Ryan Turner era and the beginning years of the Ron Zook era. Juice, I like to call them the dark ages. The time in between the 2001 Big Ten championship and Sugar Bowl berth and the 2008 Rose Bowl berth. Those dark ages in between those two great time periods in Illinois football. But listen, extremely happy to be here now. Currently, I'm a member of the Illinois House of Representatives, but always in the Illini.
Awesome, man. Awesome, man. I'm going to piggyback on your word, privilege. It surely was a privilege to play at the University of Illinois. I grew up an Illinois fan. You had no choice. Being from Chicago, right? You had no choice but to watch the Simeon Rices, the Kevin Hardys, all those guys just really do that thing out there on the defense. All the way back to the Flying Illini days, we got Kendall Gill and Steve Bartle, all those dudes. So
that's right.
Truly a privilege to have the opportunity to not only attend the University of Illinois, but actually play, and be a letter winner there for 4 years. So that was super incredible. Much like Kam, our relationship dates back pre-Illinois days. We both from Chicago, and I met Kam, I wouldn't say 2004, 2005, during my recruiting process. And ever since then, we just clicked, right? We just kind of been super good friends. We have a ton of stories from practice days to football days that we will get into over the series this season. So we'll definitely get into some of those funny stories. But Kam is my guy. We date all the way back to Chicago. And currently, not only am I an Illinois football enthusiast and fan and a fellow alum, but I am the CEO of a wealth management firm based in the DC area. So I transitioned from playing the sports and now helping professional athletes on their financial journeys now. So that's something that I do on a day-to-day, and I enjoy it. It allows me to still be involved with the NFL without taking hits in practice. So I'll take that balance itself. But yeah, man, let's dive right in. I know we are just at the beginning stages of Big Ten conference play. Let's just talk about the Illini a little bit. What's been our assessment of what we've seen thus far? Kam, I'll kind of let you kick it off, whether you want to talk offense, defense, or just team in general, but I'll kind of let you kick it off a bit.
Well, listen, I think what we saw this week, last week with the loss against Purdue, which I think is our fourth loss in a row to that program, is that the offensive line really continues to struggle. There are a few bright spots here and there, but overall, it seems to be not very consistent. And Juice, you know me well enough to know how I feel about sloppy O-line play. I detest it. I detest it, man. So I think that there's some opportunities, hopefully, as we look at what happened last week and how we prepare for next week, to do some things with the schemes to make it work. I think we got to get our tight ends more involved. For us being a play-action team, we got to find a way to not leave our running backs out there on the island as well. And so, I think all in all, we have an opportunity to run the ball, right? And I don't think we saw much of that. And we'll talk about a little bit in the future about silver linings. But when I saw Caden Fagan and what he was able to do, I was really impressed with kind of the way he moved the ball. He's built like a fullback, man. And, Juice, if you have the horses, you don't keep them in the stable. You let them run. And so that is, that's one silver lining. But, I would love to hear what you have to say about the offense, and I can kick it back off with some of the defensive issues that I saw this weekend as well.
No, I definitely want to tap into that too, and I can be more giving the offensive perspective, because I made my living, being a quarterback for so many years. But what I see from Illinois, all the way back to the season opener, obviously I think the question mark was how do we replace, 3 NFL draft picks that went in the first 3 rounds, right?
Yep.
You talk about, a substantial amount of defensive sort of contribution to the team with turnovers and being the nation's top, pass defense. We only gave like 2 passing touchdowns for the majority of the season, something crazy like that. So I think a lot of the questions going into the season was kind of centered around the defense and having a brand new quarterback. And I think that began to overshadow the team a bit. It was everyone's trying to solve and trying to pick up exactly what we left off last season.
Yep.
Well, obviously you're going to, just naturally you'll see a drop off in production defensively, right? You talk about losing Devin Weatherspoon, who essentially locked down half the side of the defense, right? We don't necessarily have that luxury. Right, and we see, some struggles early on the defensive side, and with a new quarterback who's trying to get some traction, understanding the playbook, getting some live action out there. It's going to be a bit of a struggle. Quite naturally, offenses typically come out the gate slower, right? Because one, the quarterback doesn't get hit in practice, right? You're doing the entire offseason where you're kind of playing make-believe. I would have got this pass off, or, this is the perfect pocket because you can't get touched, right? But when those bullets start flying in real-life action, your feet tend to move and do things uncharacteristically. So offensively, you're going to struggle a little bit. But what I notice about this team is they really live and breathe on big play moments, right? Yeah. Just like you see with many teams, right? There's a need for a big play. In the Toledo game to start the season off, Illinois was kind of in a dogfight. Until we get a pick 6, all of a sudden, no defense. Now, they just galvanized their entire team, and then we go on and get to a win, right? But we haven't really seen much of those monster plays in critical moments throughout the year, offense or defensively, which just kind of put us in this struggle bus, right? Clearly, we didn't have much of that against Purdue, right? And and Purdue is one of those teams, even to this day, kind of pains me to see us struggle against Purdue because it's West Lafayette. I never beat them. I know it's a lot of Illinois alums who've come through the Illinois football program that hadn't get a chance to beat Purdue, right? So that was the one that really kind of hit home for me this weekend. But as you mentioned, there's a ton of silver lining, right? There's a lot of opportunity to grow. I think we got a bunch of weapons, Ironically, we have another Isaiah Williams, right, that's currently on the team, right, who started as a quarterback but not receiver, one of the most electrifying players in the Big Ten right now. We have guys like that. We have a stable running backs, as you mentioned before, that we can hand the ball off to from an offensive perspective. So I think there's a lot of things looking upward that we can start to hang our hat on, going to the rest of the Big Ten play.
That's right, and I think we'll also, if this team is going to turn this thing around at any point this year, the onus is going to have to be on the defense to play more fundamentally sound and do the things that we know that they can do. Right, we've seen a version of this defense minus some of the great players who you mentioned earlier last year, and they were on paper. And in many people's eyes, the best defense in the country. And now this year, there are some struggles. When you look at the fact that we are last in the conference in interceptions, I think we're close to last in the conference in sacks. The D-line is not getting the pressure that they should be getting. When it comes to the amount of first downs that we've allowed, I think we're also last in the conference on that. And then third down conversions, we've not delivered on the money down, right? And so those things, the pure fundamental pieces of defensive football, we have to get back to that. I think for us to turn this season around. And the other thing, Juice, is a question about discipline, right? We have had a lot of penalties this year. a lot of the big penalties too, the 15-yarders. And listen, the football field is only 100 yards, so 15-yard penalties count. They matter, and so that has to be fixed in order for this team to move forward.
No, 100%, man. You talk about those unforced errors. Penalties is a big one, right? As you know, football is a game of field position. And, fair catch, you're already getting the ball at the 25. You tackle on 15 yards. I mean, you're almost a field goal range just right there, right?
Yep.
So unforced errors is definitely a critical point for this team being able to turn around. I mean, I guess I'll kind of speak to that a bit. Turnovers. Right.
Yeah.
Turnovers has definitely been an Achilles heel that I've seen this season. Looking at the Penn State game more precisely, I believe we have four interceptions and a fumble, right? In 3 quarters.
Yeah.
You can't beat the number 7 team in America with 5 turnovers.
That's right.
And I know that is just being young, being new players, new bodies, really starting to get their feet wet. And again, you playing a number 7 team, and you really got them right there within range. Everyone is reaching for that big play. And sometimes, it kind of works against you. So from an offensive standpoint, as we talked about and alluded to earlier, anytime you have a brand new quarterback, and I am a front row witness of this, handing the ball off has got to be your best friend.
Yeah.
Right. When you have really good running backs and an experienced offensive line, you tend to take some pressure off by taking the 3-4 yards on a rundown. Right. You take the pressure off by allowing, although it's a run play, Luke is back there still watching what the defense is doing.
Yeah.
Right. You're still looking at, upfront movement. You're looking at coverage rotation. You're still assessing each time, even though you're handing the ball up, you're getting a better sense of what's going on. So handing the ball off and letting those running backs, take some pressure off, and then also moving the pocket a little bit.
That's right.
For whatever reason this year, the Big Ten defensive fronts, right, have been getting a lot of pressure, around the conference, right. So anytime you have, again, a newer quarterback who has some limited sort of playing experience, you tend to get a little antsy in the pocket. Right,
yeah.
And which is absolutely normal. So to help out with that, you go play action, you kind of go short rolls, you go naked bootlegs, just kind of change the aiming point of the defensive line. Ultimately, this team is going to go as Luke goes, right?
That's right.
As he can start at these earlier stages of his career, not necessarily making the big play all the time, right? Because what I see, he can absolutely make these throws, right? But as you get the experience until you really get into a place where you kind of get into the zone,
yeah,
the goal is to manage these games and stay on the field on third down.
Yeah.
Right. If you look back, and I'll reference that Rose Bowl season quite a bit as we kind of go through through these episodes. I wasn't spectacular like during that Rose Bowl year. I had a few games where I kind of stood up, but for the most part, I managed the game. Third down was my go-to.
That's right. Yeah.
If I know third down, I can sustain third down. Third and short, third and medium, third and long, and we keep the drive going. They give us another opportunity for us to hand the ball off to Mendenhall or hit a really as being coming across the middle, right?
Yeah.
So for him at this stage, I'd like to see him start to manage the game a little bit better, and then as you go, you start to get into and open up some of the big plays and push the ball down the field a little bit.
Yeah, I think Luke has the ability to do that, right? It's going to take some intentionality and some work on some of these things, but I think you're absolutely right. Being able to manage the game is where the sweet spot is going to be, and we've seen some flashes from him for sure. You talked about the Toledo game, but that conversion on fourth down in the Toledo game is actually, I think, the only really reason that we won that game after that interception, right? And then he was brilliant in the first play of this Purdue game this year with that 39-yard run that really put a lot of momentum on our side. And so I think managing the game and doing it in a way that can bring the rest of the offense along with him is absolutely the play.
Yep. No, 100%, man, 100%. So we talked about, there's much room for us to grow. It's a silver lining all through, the game, through the game of football. And I think Illinois coaching staff, Coach Bielema, he is golden for finding those silver lines and really building on what needs to be done within the program. So I'm excited to see how things progress throughout the rest of the year.
Absolutely.
Now, looking forward to this weekend. We got Nebraska coming in. I'm actually going to be at this game Friday night. So if you're around, definitely pull up to Champaign. We'll connect there. But Nebraska coming to this game 2-3 overall, 0-2 in the Big Ten. They're in a similar sort of stance of struggling a little bit in the Big Ten West. Anything that you see, anything you can kind of point to as how we can capitalize from a defensive standpoint.
Yeah, so I'll say first off, this is a tough game, right? Coming off of a big loss at Purdue like we did. I know Nebraska came off of a big loss, I think, in Ann Arbor as well, right? And so we're similarly situated here, but it's a short week as well, right? So there's a lot that probably had to be done for preparation and practice, but it's a Friday night game, and so you get less time than you normally would to prepare your guys to go out for battle. What I've seen from the few times I've been able to watch Nebraska this year is that they're running the ball pretty well. I think that they're averaging somewhere around 200 yards rushing per game, which is nothing to sniff at, right? The quarterback, Heinrich Harburg, I think his name is, he seems to be making it happen on the ground when he can't make it happen in the air, which is why us rushing and getting some real pressure is super important. I know, a lot of times this year I've seen us drop the fourth D lineman back and put him in coverage, and we've only really rushed three down linemen, which I think puts many of our guys at a disadvantage because they're automatically being double teamed. The rush on the quarterback has not been enough to throw these guys off, but with this guy that Nebraska has under center, we're going to have to get him some pressure early and often and send our guys. And so I would imagine that the conversations are being had in Champaign this week about whether or not we do more work with four down linemen, making sure we get to that quarterback, make that pressure happen so that the defensive backs and the linebackers can play free.
I like that a lot. I mean, anytime you have a run-dominant team, right, that is the defensive line's dream come true, right? You know where the ball is coming. You don't necessarily have to worry about the quarterback dropping back 10, 11 yards in the pocket. You know that the running back is going to come through your gap, right? So that is a defensive lineman's dream when you have a run-heavy team. From an offensive standpoint, I mean, I'll echo what I just mentioned again. I think at this point we have a solid sort of survey or collection of plays that Luke and that offense are really comfortable with. Right, they've seen some of the things that they do well. They see some things that they might not, do as well or struggle with a bit. So I think this week going into this game, I think there needs to be, a conversation with the offensive unit and talk about the things that we do well and really lean into that. Right. For what I see, Luke is lights out in the short pass game. Right, so getting the ball out on bubble screens, quick slants, getting the ball out quick. So it takes a lot of the thinking out of the equation. Where he just reacted, he just hitting the open receiver, and so it's getting the ball out of his hands pretty quick. Leveraging those running backs. I mean, leveraging the backfield. Right, you got Josh McCray back there, who's really been a workhorse for the team. Reggie Love back there. He's been able to, find some lanes coming through that interior line. Then also leveraging Isaiah coming through the backfield, whether it be, jet sweeps or getting the ball up to quick screens. Really taking 2, 3, 4 yards at a time, right, and try to avoid getting in bad situations third and long, which obviously push a lot of pressure on your offensive line and the quarterback trying to make a play down the field. So. I'd like to see those things happen, especially for a young quarterback who's really trying to gain some traction and really get a grip of how this offense could potentially roll, as he kind of continues out the rest of the season.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think you called it. Having big games from guys like Reggie and absolutely seeing Isaiah Williams shine. I think he's caught the ball 30 times this year. He leads the team in receptions just shy of 500 yards. To see him break out this game is going to be really important. Listen, it's not too late. The season's not over. A big win here against the Cornhuskers is going to put us on the right track.
No, absolutely. So Cam, I got a question for you, and I always kind of thought about this at least from a quarterback's perspective. Stopping a run, right? Is that scheme? Is that individual technique, or is it just the mentality of like I'm just gonna beat this dude in front of me?
Yeah, listen, being a stingy style defense to me is always a mindset, right? Obviously, being able to have the guys who can clog the gap, who can hold the jump through, who can engage on double teams, and to recreate a new line of scrimmage is important. But there's a momentum that happens after you are able to do this. Especially against teams who make their bread and butter at the line of scrimmage, man. And so I really do think it's a mentality. In fact, when I last saw you, Juice, when we were in Champaign for the Penn State game, I was talking to Dana Howard about defensive line play for our guys, and we both said the same thing, that these guys need to be mean and nasty and play with attitude, right? And we didn't see a lot of that this year. When we've seen it, they've done great. That has to be the ethos in this next game against Nebraska.
Love it. And I always kind of thought that, and it quite makes sense to us. I mean, that was always my message for, the offensive line. Like, just don't get beat. Like, this is, at the end of the day, this is you versus him. Like, don't let him beat you, right? And that was always my mantra whenever I got into one-on-one situations. So if I'm running the ball, not one person is going to tackle me by himself, right? That was just the mentality I have. Like, it's going to take the entire defense, at least two of y'all, to bring me down, right? So I always kind of thought that, but I wasn't quite sure because I never played defensive line. So
yeah, you got it right.
Predictions. I'm not great with predictions. I'll be the first to tell you, right? When you talk about score predictions, right? I can get a sense of who may or may not win, but score prediction seems like I'm way off. So I'll do my best with this one. And obviously I'm gonna be a little biased towards Illinois, but I got us winning. All right, but I'll let you give your score first before I give you what my predicted score is gonna be.
Got it. So I also have us winning. I think that if Luke can find a way to once again manage the game, as you said, and we can be consistent and we can play Illinois football, it's not going to be a barn burner as far as scores, scoring, but I'm looking at Illinois 21, Nebraska 7.
Okay, 2 touchdowns. Okay, all right. I'll take 21-7. I'm gonna push the score up a little bit. I think there will be a couple big plays, whether those be intentional big plays or accidental big plays, right? Obviously you kind of you going into Nebraska being a run heavy team. They're not putting up those type of yards for no reason, right? So they're going to make some plays on the ground. So that being said, I think Illinois comes out offensively. We sustain a few more drives. We put a few more points on the boards. We kind of talked about. That offense is getting better each week. We're a couple plays away. Even some of the big shots that we took against Purdue, right? We were, right there, in the cups and, making a big play in the end zone. So I'm going to jump out there and say Illinois 28, Nebraska 24. Okay. Nebraska will make it a challenge. They'll make it against a night game. Everyone gets excited about Friday night games, right?
Right.
So they'll make a few plays, but I got Illinois 28-24.
That's right. Listen, and I like that as well. I think in both our scenarios, the defense has to show up and make sure they give the offense the ability to be on the field and to work their magic.
So we'll take this next little opportunity to just kind of talk just Illinois, just not necessarily Illinois football, but just college football, the state of college football. And we got to talk about it. Everyone else is talking about the Deion effect, Coach Prime. What is your take on Colorado football from your perspective as you've seen thus far this season?
Listen, I think it's exciting. I think what Coach Prime has been able to do in Boulder is a big deal. I mean, I'm talking to people who I know, family members and friends who don't watch college football, but they're intrigued with what's going on based on kind of the energy that Deion and his guys have brought to the game. And listen, I think it's good for the sport. I think it's good, to get people engaged and excited about it. They're going to have a tough road ahead. It's a tough season for them, and they got a heck of a schedule. But I'm excited to see them play. I'm excited to hear people get worked up around college football again. I think it's great for the game.
This is what you call, in the financial world, this is what you call a disruptor.
Yeah.
Right. Coach Prime is disrupting the entire landscape of college football as we know it. Right. Typically, you have your head coach be essentially the face, the voice of an entire town, entire university, in some cases an entire state, right? Talk about the state universities, and usually the head coach is very conservative, reserved in the media, golf shirt and, maybe a nice watch. But Coach Prime showing up, we got the shades on, he got the cowboy hat, he got concerts going on game day, right? So he's shaking this thing up, but he's still performing, up to expectations, right, on the field, right? Yeah. We're not seeing a situation where it's just pure chaos and recklessness where all these things are happening and they're not showing up and playing well on the field. Now, obviously, Oregon got to him a little bit. I think Oregon is absolutely one of the better teams in the country, let alone in the Pac-12 conference. So, they ran into a brick wall in terms of facing the Ducks a couple of weeks ago. But beyond that, they have some weapons, right? They have some serious weapons in Colorado right now. Obviously, with Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders kind of being the faces of the program right now. But you see some of the guys that were there before Coach Prime got there, and along with some of those transfer portal kids, they have some weapons, right? And just like any other team, they still have to put those weapons and pieces together, right? Yeah. Obviously, offense has kind of been leading the pack with them, which you're doing. Sanders is kind of being in the Heisman talks. But defensively, they're still gaining chemistry and figuring out what works for them, and developing, the entire scheme and what works for them in a sense, right? So they're still putting some pieces together. But in general, I think, Colorado is absolutely making college football exciting.
Yep.
Right? Everyone is tuning in just to see what antics is going to take place. They want to see what sound bites Deion is going to create, what bulletin board material is going to come out of this. So it's pretty cool to kind of see from, I guess you can say, from a real urban I don't necessarily want to say hip hop, but a real urban sort of
it's the culture.
College football, right?
It's the culture. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, and that is that's dope to watch, man. And honestly, to do it at a program that people haven't cared about for a long time, I can't tell you that I've thought twice about Colorado football since the Gary Barnett and or Cordell Stewart and or Rashawn Salam days. They're picking up. And listen, they're way ahead of schedule when it comes to the development as a team and the transition that has happened since Deion took over there. And so it's exciting to watch. Once again, I think it's good for all of college football.
100%, man. Look, I'm thinking back to my recruiting days. I'm not too sure I wouldn't be in Buffalo right now if I had to do it all over again. Coach Prime is in Colorado, right? Oh, yeah. I had an offer for Colorado, by the way, and I kind of just pushed it to the side really quick.
Yeah.
But Coach Prime being there, I might have to reconsider that. Like, what would that have been like to have me in Boulder, Colorado, in the mountains somewhere, right? Just matching my energy with Coach Prime and putting that performance on the field. I mean, I always kind of play with it for stuff like that.
Yeah, same thing. Like I was just thinking about that the other day. I also had an offer from Colorado. Vince Okru, who was the D coordinator there, ended up coming to U of I a few years later and coaching me in Champaign. If Prime was the head guy, I can't say that 18-year-old Kam Buckner would have said no to him.
Right, facts, man. No, that's interesting stuff. So throughout the rest of the season, I'm super excited to be here with you, Kam. By the way, man,
you too, brother.
This is gonna be fun. We'll get into more the nitty-gritty of football, right? Not even just college football. So we'll have some fellow alums kind of jump back in there. From previous years. We'll have them on as special guests. So, we got a whole laundry list of guys who are lined up who want to join us here and just kind of give their 2 cents on the state of Illinois football, their experience, the transition to the NFL and out of the NFL.
Yep.
So we'll have a lot of fun with speaking with not only fellow alums but friends, personal friends of ours as we kind of go out through the rest of these episodes.
Look, I'm looking forward to that, man. As you know, it's always great to get together, to be together, and to talk about our experiences, man, and to talk about it through a lens that hopefully the Illini Nation can understand, and we'll have some fun while we're doing it as well.
100%. So looking forward to this, guys and girls. Stay tuned. We'll be bringing you a ton of different updates, a ton of different ideas and commentary on not only just Illinois football, but college football and the NFL as well. So stay tuned. Looking forward to doing this. Welcome to the Family Podcast again.